So I got a little bit of a brainstorming idea I want to go over, but first I want to show a short clip from this documentary called The Secret Life of Machines, and this is a part where in the middle of the documentary where he shows how fluorescent light tubes were the idea around fluorescent light tubes first came about here.
Today's efficient fluorescent lights developed from the original arc lights. This tiny high voltage arc doesn't reach far or give off much light. But if I connect the wires to the ends of this glass tube,
just a wire sticking in each side.
Again, switch off the lights and start pumping the air out of the tube. Instead of forming an arc, the electricity fills the entire tube with a glowing discharge. This is the basis of fluorescent and many other types of electric light, although in its basic form it's not really bright enough to be useful. When it was first discovered, these tubes were bent into funny shapes and demonstrated as wonders of science. If I apply a voltage to this one, they have the selection Royal Institute. In 1905, a French inventor called Georges Claude found that a newly discovered red,
okay, yeah, there's neon
tungsten
signs
filament at each end. The idea is that heating these up for a moment encourages the electricity to start flowing.
Okay, so that's a clear bulb right there.
There's a starter to do.
Right, that there's no fluorescent powder in that bulb right there. That's just a clear glass bulb, and the electricity is discharging through the bulb like this. Now, I want to kind of propose the idea that the only way that light can be seen really is if it is interacting with something and the light gets reflected at you so whatever is glowing on the inside of this tube, since all the air has been sucked out, there's been no, I don't know if he has mercury in this tube or not. Usually there's a little bit of mercury that's put into these fluorescent tubes, but in that other clip, in the first part of this clip that we saw, all he had was a tube with two wires sticking into it, and as soon as he started pumping out the air, we started to see this glowing discharge. So I don't think he had any mercury in that bulb. So this does work without anything being in the bulb, just by pumping out the air. So the light that we're seeing from the glowing discharge inside this tube after we pump out the air and don't put anything else in, no other gases into it, must be being reflected off of something in order for us to be able to see anything glowing inside the tube at all. Or else we would just see, like, you know, something glowing here at this filament, something glowing here at this filament, and see nothing in between if there is absolutely nothing in the bulb. But there's something in there that the electricity is interacting with that is causing and is glowing that we are looking at here. And I'm thinking that if you make a light like this and you could make it brighter or increase the brightness of it, you could then put it under a microscope with a something like a welding mask or a light filter, and see what you see underneath the microscope, looking very closely at the glowing, at whatever it is that is glowing inside the tube. And you want it really, really bright. But in order to look at it, it's just like looking at the sun. You want to have some sort of a light filter, like a welder's mask or something like that, like I've shown in my video about looking at the sun with your telescope. You can look at the sun's surface with your telescope if you just have a light filter to be able to look at through the lens with. And I came up with the idea that you could do the same thing with a glowing discharge through a bulb like this, as long as it was bright enough and you had the same setup as I did when I looked at the sun, but with a microscope to look at glowing plasma inside something like a fluorescent tube. So that's what I wanted to show this
switching
this clip
and
here.
ballast to limit the amount of current that can pass through it. The inside of the tube.
I really
is filled
enjoy
with a
this
mixture
guy's
of
work.
argon
He
and
does
mercury
really
vapor.
great work
This
showing
is
how
giving out
technology works.
mostly ultraviolet light. That's why I'm wearing these protective goggles. But fortunately, there are chemicals that can convert the ultraviolet to visible light, a property called fluorescence.
Yeah, so
If I
these
switch
are,
the light off for a minute, you can see they're actually just white powders.
yeah, they're just white powders.
Tube manufacturers mix these fluorescent materials, creating any colour, combination of colours they want. See if I can get some to... These are coated onto the inside of the tube.
Yeah, so that's how they build fluorescent lights, fluorescent light bulbs. That white powder on the inside of bulbs is not mercury. It's actually It's actually a white powder that fluoresces with ultraviolet light. But I wanted to propose that there is something in, even though you suck out all the air inside these tubes, when you put a electric current through it, you get this glowing discharge. That light that's glowing from the glowing discharge inside the bulb, once all the air is pumped out, has to be some sort of something that's glowing. And just like I look at the sun's surface through my telescope, I think we should use a microscope to look at a glowing plasma inside a vacuum tube that's glowing very brightly, so bright that we have to use a light filter to look at. And yeah, and then just look through the microscope with that filter on and see what you see when you zoom in, what exactly a glowing plasma looks like on the microscopic level. And that's what I wanted to share, and how these fluorescent bulbs actually work with the fluorescent powder on the inside. Okay, alright. Have a good night. Thanks for watching.